The Could Be Better podcast network is sponsored in part by the Frederick Let There Be Rock School. Let There Be Rock School, located in Frederick, provides a world-renowned music lesson program and an unparalleled after-school rock and roll community center. Listeners can now get their first lesson free when you tell them Could Be Better sent you. Visit www.frederickrockschool.com and click the contact button in the top right-hand corner of the page to get yourself started.
Again, listeners of the show get their first lesson free if you tell them Could Be Better sent you. It's not too late or too early to learn your favorite Olivia Rodrigo, Dragon Force, or the Black Keys song. So go now to www.frederickrockschool.com and reach out today for your first free lesson. Welcome to the Could Be Better podcast. I'm here with my best friend, Colin McGuire. Hi.
That's right. Hi, how are you?
Today's Monday, and
It is.
It got dark really early, and it was sunny really early. And so I don't know how I feel about any of it.
Well, it's always sunny in Philadelphia, so it doesn't quite matter, except for wherever the hell Britt from the band Chrome Rodeo, for anybody who knows Chrome Rodeo. I hope it's not sunny where he is.
Hey, why haven't we canceled daylight savings time yet? Wasn't that supposed to be a thing?
Yeah, what's up with that? I don't know.
Politics.
I don't get it. I don't quite get it, because it very much has an impact on people's moods, correct?
100%. My wife has been dreading everything all week, and not only has she had the Sunday scare, she had the Monday miserables, and that was not fun.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though. I put daylight savings time in the same bucket as I do professional football. So it is
Soccer
very weird.
or national football?
Well, I should say American football. TM the band. But the band, no. When you have those early September games and you have the 4:00 games, the late afternoon games, and it's still sunny until about the end of the game, it's odd to me. There is a certain amount of comfort, even though if I do fall on the spectrum of seasonal depression disorder, it would be the fall that always kills me. But I do, I've grown to appreciate the idea that it's, 5:00 and a whole new set of football games are coming.
And that is how we combat seasonal depression, people, watching the football, which we're definitely not betting because FanDuel is not a sponsor yet, but maybe they will be.
But DraftKings is. Go to DraftKings and use the promo code SamPow.
Yeah, and you actually have you get charged double, and whatever winnings you have, 10% of it goes to the band. Yeah. So
shows. Tell people about shows.
So we have so little shows coming up, right? So we are down to our final 2 of the year. Just this past weekend, we had a really good batch of shows. We got to celebrate with the Silent All Mountains and Marshall Fuzz and company, and it was a lot of fun. So 2 great shows with 2 really cool bands.
Well, I was able to come by for a second, but I was not able to be there as long as I had hoped for the Silent All Mountain show. So can you give us a quick 2-minute synopsis of how the Silent All Mountains were?
It was really cool to see them play in the brewery with the stage and with all the new lights and all the new things. It was the first time we've had that stage set up before. So for people that care about how things look, we had the drums in the far corner, which was just a kind of a cool vibe. The Silent Mountains have the biggest band in Frederick that is all original members for the most part. And there's 7 humans on that stage, and it's insane. And it was a really cool vibe. They sounded great. Andrew lost his voice, forgot a ton of words, but they played 2 new songs. And
is that a preview of a future podcast?
That is a super preview of a future podcast, because 2 of these songs we've recorded in the Could Be Better studios. And I'm going to say this because it's going to make everybody mad, but I like our versions better. Just kidding. They're the exact same version of the song.
I know you're listening, Andrew.
Yeah. Well, he is. But Both versions were great. I did love that I knew the songs when they played them and I was familiar with them. And it was cool hearing the band do the stuff with them. So very special moment because they don't really do new songs. So this was really cool. And it was a good feeling. I'm glad we got to be in the room. There was a lot of people that were dancing and people kept putting their beer on my soundboard. And I walked their beer across the side of the room and they did not like that. So whoever that person was, I don't care. It was a good
The most
time.
Chris Perry thing I've heard in a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
I'm
some
sure it was
things,
fun.
it was a blast. And then Andrew, Pat, and I talked about family and spirituality and uh uh stuff after the show, and it was tons of fun and good for the soul. So anyway, it was a blast. So thank you all for playing. So we have 2 more shows coming up this year, and then that's it really. So we have this show has not been announced yet, but it should be because I think I should have the flyer back by now, but we'll risk it anyway. It's Zoo 2, Flo Petite, and Baby Photos on Friday, December 1st? First Friday? It's the first. Yeah. And then on December 2nd, we have our last show of the year, which is also coincidentally the last Bliss House show ever. This is their final show. And then our friends Pulses from Virginia are playing. I sold merch next to them at Blue Ridge Summit Festival before it was a super dumpster fire. And they're all really, really nice humans from the state of Virginia. And then we have our friends of the podcast and just friends to all, Hostile Array. They're going to open up the show. And it's going to be a really good time. 6:30 is for both shows, free. Do the things. I will be at both of them, not working. So very excited to just be able to enjoy music.
It is possible that well, I don't know how long was I there Saturday night? About 15 minutes, 20 minutes.
Dude, you were there for like 2 hours.
Just to sign autographs. After that, though, socially, I was there for 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
There's a chance, especially if Chris gets me in a good mood. I love those people in Baby Photos. I love those people in Zoo 2. I love Flo Petite with all my heart. We wrote a song together once. Maybe we'll play that on this podcast before it's all said and done. Maybe I'll come and say hello. That could be a lot of fun. And plus, there are good hamburgers.
Great hamburgers. We had our lunch there a couple of Fridays ago and it was delicious. So shout out to 50/50 Burgers, the best burger place in Frederick.
That is true, though. They hate us, from what I am told. Now,
They just hate live music. That's all.
This is the episode in the month where we do not talk about music, and we have just talked about the music. So now what do we do?
Well, now we hear a word from our sponsors.
This podcast is brought to you in part by Special Tees. Are you in a band that wants merch but does not know where to go? Are you looking for great quality and affordable pricing? Do you have a design that you'd like to put on a koozie for your favorite consumable beverage? How about office swag for your job or giveaway items for all of your events? Okay, you get the point now, but you have to look no further than Special Tees for all your heart's printing desires. The Could Be Better podcast listeners can act now and get 10% of your first order if you tell them Could Be Better sent you. Visit their website at www.special-tees.com or use the link in the show notes to get the conversation started. You can even call ahead and visit their showroom to see all types of products, everything that they offer. Again, telling them Could Be Better sent you via email, phone call, or carrier pigeon. It'll get you 10% off your first order. That's www.special-tees.com. Special Tees. If you haven't worked with them, they want to work with you.
So this is our specialty long tees segment brought to you by our friends, pals, best shirt makers, printer people, and front desk bretters that we know. Special Tees. So there is no time limit to answer one question is what we normally do, but we're going to change this up a little bit because not only are we feeling saucy, not only are we feeling grateful, not only are we feeling very thankful, but we're feeling reflective and we want to kind of share some of these things. So we're going to kind of do a thing where we share. Colin and I are going to go back and forth for maybe 10, 15 minutes of talking about the things that we're grateful for. Some of them might be silly. Some of them might be super serious. We might just turn up the heat, kind of like in the hot ones, where we'll start with super surface level about like how Colin just loves warm socks coming out of the dryer. Or it could start with being grateful for anything. Now, for folks that are listening, this is the No Music episode podcast, but there might be some sprinklings of music
Might be
since
some
that,
music talk.
yeah, perhaps. So there's no music actually being played, but I think talking about music, I think, is probably okay. So Colin, why don't you start us off with this
Well,
November season?
so here's where we're going. We're going to go mild to hot to Hangry Joe's. If you have not tried Hangry Joe's in the Northern Virginia or Frederick area, you need to do that. Chris, have you?
No, I was about to ask. I never got the review from you and Bethany on Fridays or Saturdays, so I'm not upset. I'm just questioning our friendship now. But was it good?
They, the Hangry Joe's that I knew was pretty good. The Hangry Joe's I experimented with could have been better, but that's the name of this podcast, and perhaps they'll be a sponsor on season 4. So we're gonna start this with mild sauce. And do you know what's the host's name on Hot Ones? What is that guy's name?
Chris.
Bald guy. That's is it it is Chris, isn't it?
I'm
No,
checking.
I
I'm checking.
don't
I'm
know.
getting front desk rep
As
to
you
check it right now.
um so this will be a little dab, as they say on Hot Ones. Little dab. Something I am very thankful for actually ties into Hangry Joe's a little bit, because they're one of the few places that you can get this. Are you ready for this? You ready
It
for
was
this?
it was Sean Evans, by
Sean
the way.
Evans, that's his name. Sean Evans, the luckiest guy. There are two luckiest men to ever live. Number one is Ringo Starr. Number two is Sean Evans. So, Fountain Mountain Dew. I'm telling you this. I don't know if you've ever had this, Chris, but I'm telling you this right now. Getting a fountain drink of a Mountain Dew hits way, way different than your 16-ounce that you buy at Walmart, or your 12-ounce or even the can. And the can hits different than the bottles too. But when you get that ice and that nitrogen, or whatever the hell that is, that that is a singular flavor. I am thankful I begin this with the fountain drink version of Mountain Dew. Regular Mountain Dew, too, by the way. How about you?
I was gonna say there's the Baja Blast at the Taco Bell, and it is delicious. And
I know. And they have regular, I think, on Fountain too, don't they?
I think they have the zero sugar, which is my jam, and it's delicious.
The zero sugar actually tastes different. It
Just as
does.
good. Just as good. My mild level of uh thankfulness, or something I'm grateful for. There was so my mother-in-law. We'll talk. We'll start maybe kind of hot, and then we'll scoop down to the thing. So she does this crazy thing that probably a lot of people do, but we call it the Melinda in our household. Whenever you do it, you heat up coffee and you nuke it, right? You put it in for 2 minutes. It's piping hot. So that way you get the mug, you go and you take it wherever you're going. You can forget about it for a second, but then you're like, oh, shoot, I remember I have this. And you take a sip and it's still pretty hot because you made it so hot before that, like, it stays hot for a long time because it's really, really freaking hot. There's the Melinda is called that because she is the queen of heating up your coffee and then leaving it in the microwave and then leaving the house and go and doing something else, like looking for your coffee cup or whatever it might be, and then being like, where did I put it? I can't do it. So I guess I'll go make another cup. Start drinking that new cup of coffee, then to go be like, oh, I could warm it up. And then you open up the microwave and then there's the cup that you heated up. And so the Melinda is when you leave your coffee cup in the microwave and you forget that it's in there. And so I pulled a Melinda on Saturday going to the Silent All Mountain show. And I was really sad about it because I really wanted some coffee. I needed some coffee. And I got to the show and my mom texted me. She goes, hey, you left your coffee in the microwave. And I was like, dang, drat. Sorry for the language, folks. And what I'm grateful for is I got to walk over to Gravel and Grind and get a nice, delicious cup of coffee.
What time did you walk over to Gravel and Grind?
It was like 4.
Oh, so that's way late in the day to get a coffee.
For me, yes. And I'm getting my days confused. It was Friday and it was like 2. But I still wanted coffee, and so I got I got coffee. And so my grateful
Wait, a Friday. We had lunch on Friday. That was immediately after we were done with lunch.
yeah, I went home because then I went to Old Mother to do some cable labeling and some stuff before the Marshall Fuzz show. And I forgot my
Right.
coffee, and it was like 2-ish, and I was having a bad day on Friday and a tough day on Friday. And I was like, hey, I need some coffee. And so Gravel Grind was there for me for a pick me up. So that's my thing to be grateful for.
Until you found your best friend Colin standing there in the parking lot. That's
It's beautiful.
I guess that's all. That's the end of the sentence. Here's the second thing. If we're gonna go mild sauce to begin, I'm gonna mild rub. The dry rub, not the sauce.
Right.
Let's just say for that, I'm very thankful for Old Mother Brewing. Very thankful for special teas. I'm very thankful for the Let There Be Rock School. Yes, I made you sit here and wait for me to list off all the sponsors, but I am very thankful for them because we are 3 seasons into this, and who would have ever thunk, right, Chris?
I would have never thought that I could tell somebody at the Frederick Rock, Let There Be Rock School that if it could be better since you get your first lesson free. I would have never thought that if you call specialties and ask them to place an order for some really cool Sound Pal t-shirts, that if you tell them that could be better essentially, you get 10% off your first order. And I would have never thought that you could go to Old Mother Brewing Company and see super sweet local regional touring musicians for free and drink great beer and cocktails.
There's something to be said about this. Now we complain. We complain a lot, especially about especially about everything. It's not necessarily about one thing. It's pretty much about everything. But the reality of this is this is a podcast that I would have never thought would last 3 years in in the way it has. And the very, very, very much truth about it is the only reasons it's lasted is because there are people and businesses in this town that have believed in it enough to support us. So, this isn't even the mild rub. This should be like the death hot rub, but I'm sure we'll get to that in a few minutes. I cannot thank this community enough. I really can't. And I can't thank, everybody. The real estate. Remember season 1? I think it was season 1. Your realtor,
HomeLoansWithAlex.com.
homeloanswithalex.com. There have been people in this town that have chosen to support this podcast for one reason or another, and they deserve an extra turkey leg on their table. So that's my mild seasoning.
It is a scoop of extra sweet potato casserole. If that's your yam,
That's disgusting.
sweet potato casserole is delicious, and I will cut you. But we gotta keep it rolling. So if we're doing the mild rub, my mild rub is and some folks might say this is a little more spicy than you're kind of used to, but one of our sound folks couldn't do sound on Friday and had to swap out with somebody. So Spencer graciously jumped in and ran sound on Friday when he wasn't even on the schedule. And for people that are curious or care or think that could be better, is this venue conglomerate that is here to control the faucets of local music from being dripped onto this local music scene. Nobody makes what they should be making for running sound and loading in and doing all of these things. And so Spencer graciously, volunteering his time to do sound for a super sweet show was really cool for me. And then I got to do sound for the mountains on Saturday, and the love that you felt in the room on Saturday specifically was something I am extraordinarily grateful for. It was Joe and Andrew's birthday, so there's a bunch of family there. I told everybody in the mountains that if their family members come up to me and tell them to turn somebody up or to turn them down, Joe's dad excluded, because I always make sure Joe's turned up. I'm not going to listen to them, and I'm going to have them write a comment card. And they all thought it was very funny, because having somebody's parents write a comment card makes you think like you're at church and they're saying the music is too loud. But being in that room, there was birthday cake, there was pie that I wasn't offered any. And that's fine. I didn't want pumpkin pie. I just love pumpkin, so I'm not upset. But I'm grateful for a community of people that come together to see the same band they've been watching for years. And they were still really excited about it. And that sort of hope and commitment and beams of light connecting us all together was really cool. And that is my mild rub.
You look like you're going to get emotional there. I like that.
Well,
I
it was the
like that.
thumb. I was channeling my inner Barack.
So now I'm going to go to medium, and I'm going to go to medium, which turns it up even a little bit. Says what was his name? Sean Casey,
Sean Hayes from the hit
Dead,
show
Shaun of
Smartless.
the Dead. And this is what I think I can do without getting overly emotional if I don't as long as I do it right. And I'm thankful for Frederick. I'm thankful for Frederick on so many levels. In January, it will mark 14 years since I have moved to Maryland. And boy, this has been crazy. This has been like from top to bottom. If you would have talked to me 15 years ago before I came here and what has gone on since then, you could have given me 100 billion chances to map out how that would have went, and I would have not gotten any of that correct. So I just want to take this time, at least however briefly, and maybe someday we can go into this more. But the small city of Frederick, Maryland has provided me with so much life and so many opportunities and so many interesting things that, as somebody who grew up in a town with less than 2,000 people in the middle of northern Pennsylvania, that's called the icebox of Pennsylvania, where you go to school even if there's 2 feet of snow on the ground. You walk there and you walk uphill 2 miles both ways. This has been a hell of a ride, a hell of a ride that I could have never predicted. So for all the things that we say, and even if it becomes cynical and it becomes a little bit negative, which we do sometimes, right, Chris? We do that.
Do is what he said, everybody.
I did. Even if it becomes sort of not necessarily the most complimentary, or I won't even say that, when it becomes frustrating and we express our frustrations despite all of that. I am very thankful for the small town of Frederick, Maryland, that has given me so much more life than I even knew how to handle. So I'll leave that to you, Chris.
It's very good. I am, so we're medium, right? That's where we're at. So
medium sauce.
Medium sauce. So I
He has nothing, ladies and gentlemen. He has nothing.
No, because like everything that I'm, if I'm tasting all of the flavors now, everything's starting to get a little hot. So it's like I'm trying to find what's not hot. But I think there's I think something I'm grateful for and thankful for has been how a lot of, like, there are a lot of people that I'm friends with and that we're friends with Colin that do listen to this podcast as much as we pretend like some people don't. And not everybody does, because obviously we still work our jobs, right? But there's a level of care that I feel, and I feel cared for when I know people listen and they'll text me things. I mean, like we had a really interesting podcast where I ranted about religion for a bit, and Um, that would have made me really uncomfortable to do like 5 years ago. And for this podcast to be a space where maybe we lost subscribers, I don't know. I think we still got like, $1 million in the mail. So I think we're still doing okay. But like, for us to be able to, for me to be able to share these things, or for you last season, we got into some heavy life stuff about some upbringings and stories. And, we get to exist in this space that is creative and fun and cynical and hopeful and connected and beautiful. But sometimes it can be, hard to feel vulnerable and put yourself out there. And so I'm grateful for this space where people seem to listen, people seem to at least pretend to care. And so I'm grateful for that pretending of people caring about us and caring about these things that we say. And
They don't mean
um,
it.
they don't, and if they, even if they don't mean it, I believe that they think that they pretend to mean it. And I think that's a cool thing. So that's my medium sauce.
Oh, now we need, of course, the medium rub.
The rub.
And now I'm going to take a left turn on this. And you're going to argue that if I put the entire town of Frederick at one place, then perhaps it should be higher on the list. And maybe you'd be right if you're listening. But you also have no idea, if you argue that, how important food is to me. So when I moved here, when I moved to Maryland 14 years ago, come January 15, whatever I said, I don't remember. I found the best chicken wings I had ever had in my life. It was up in Hagerstown. It was the Hard Times Cafe, which also had an outlet here in Frederick, which is also not here anymore. Correct,
Chili.
Chris?
It was pretty good.
The
Billiards
chili,
and
it
everything.
was known for the chili and hosting Alien Ant Farm concerts, at least in Hagerstown. And some of the best pizza and some of the best steaks and some of like everything. When you find towns or at least areas, if you want to put, for me at least, if I put Hagerstown and Frederick in a single pot, they both provided such great food. And I know, like, I've been very critical of this, and I will continue to be. Like, I think Frederick wants to fancy itself this great food town. I don't know that it is, but that's for another day. But the good food I've had has been so flippin' good, including flippin' pizza until the latest iteration when Chris and I went back and walked through a smoke shop and also a hostel and had some of the worst pizza we've ever had in our lives. But all told, like, I'm so thankful for this area's food. I don't know. I was interviewed by when I was a few years out of college. I was interviewed by my hometown newspaper, and they said, what do you miss most about Kane, Pennsylvania? And I said, you know what I miss? And this was a thoughtful answer at the time. I said, I miss the food. We had like three restaurants at the time when I grew up. One was a pizza place, one was a hamburger place, and then we had a Chinese place, and that was it. Those were it. There wasn't even a diner. Like that was really what it was. And those were great foods. Frederick, the Western, I guess, is it Western or Midwestern Maryland position? I don't know what you would call Frederick, but I know Hagerstown is certainly Western Maryland, I would
Right.
think. Um, the food here has been great, and it has brought me great joy. I do not I do not underestimate that, and I am not overstating this. It really means that much to me. So that might be a milk toast answer, but that is my answer for medium rub. Chris?
It's good. My medium rub is and as I was thinking about these pretty quickly before we started taping, it was, oh no, this is gonna come off a little infomercially. But um my medium rub is Samuel Powers. I am extremely
Oh
grateful.
shit. Or oh shoot.
Extremely grateful. Yeah, yeah. Watch it, bub. Um the band is back together and we're doing things, and that is all paling in comparison to how special it is to be around my three really good, and
Your best
four,
friends, your three best friends.
yeah, yeah, and we're writing music and hanging out and having long conversations about t-shirts and sets and where we want to do things, and it doesn't feel like a chore at all, and we're having a ton of fun. And it's really special for people that know everything that we talked about of the things that happened 4 or 5 years ago are out there, and so we've kind of moved on from talking about them, but there's a whole lot of stuff, and I'm really glad to feel like we're past it and we're doing things together in a special way. And um you know, restoration and repairing of friendships is possible when everybody wants to do those things. And so it's really special to me that this is happening at this point in my life, and that we're it feels really good. You know, we're playing a show in a couple weeks, and so we'll see if I feel the same way afterwards, you know. But
Tune
it's
in December 1st to hear the demise of Samuel Powers.
yes, yes. The tell all. So yeah, so friendship, Samuel Powers, music that's not about a 90s TV show anymore, and just being able to do stuff with my friends. It's really, really, really cool.
We are now at hot.
Mm.
We are at hot. And I'm gonna actually, when you start hot, it's gonna be hot rub instead of hot sauce, because the sauce makes it hotter when you're looking for heat. We're gonna go rub. And here's something that I am very, very, when I say hot, I mean hot rub. Like, woo, lots and lots of hot rub. Chris just touched on this, and I know this isn't the music podcast, but the joy that Samuel Powers getting back together brought him, I am going to amplify that at least a little bit, because when I moved to Maryland, I did not even bring my drums. And I remember I had this huge party when I left Pennsylvania. A ton of people came, and I was very thankful for that. And some people had asked, they said, "Oh, are you going to take your drums?" I said, "No, no, I gave them to my dad. Gave them like my dad and I built the kit, and I said, well, he'll just have them and that'll be it." And I remember that night too, I said that to him because he asked me about playing. And I said, "No, I'm just going to leave them with you and that'll be it. You can take them out whenever you want." He said, "No, you'll play again." I said, "No, I won't. I'm going. This is it. This is," and I was 29 years old, or 20. No, I was younger than that. I would have been 26, I guess. And wouldn't you know it, who could have thunk that it was only a few years after I ended up moving here that I called him about those drums, and I said, "Do you still have my drums?" And now I've had the chance to play music here in Frederick. So the idea, if you really come to peace with yourself on the notion that something you've always known, something you've only ever known when it comes to sort of an artistic thing, whatever that is, it doesn't have to be drums, of course, it could be anything else. It doesn't even have to be music, it could be anything else. And you put it to bed and you think it's to bed, and then it wakes up and you get that back out of yourself. I don't know that there's a better feeling, Chris. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a bit of that.
Chris is completely tuned out.
No, no, no. I was like, mm-hmm, because it's like it's. I don't want to just repeat what you're saying with different ways, but like there is a piece of once you've kind of like set something out and you let something go. I think of like the funny thing in Arrested Development where Joe Bluth, played by Will Arnett, is like throwing the letter in the water and it keeps coming back to him. But like, but like you actually setting something and letting something go and setting something free, because it's like, hey, like what it's going to be is what it's going to be, and whatever it looks like, I'm cool with that. And so then for it to then come back in a way that it's better than how you sent it out, or even what you could have thought it was going to be, is like a really cool thing. And I 100% agree with you that like I'm very glad you brought the Jums to Frederick, because I think this place would be very different if there was no you and I wouldn't be friends if there was no Double Motorcycle. And uh we yeah, super grateful for them.
Yeah, I mean that crosses into my super hot sauce. Like the people that I've met and the things that I've accomplished. There's been a lot of hurt and a lot of bad during my time in Frederick for me personally. But I'm also, geographically at least, am very soon going to not live in Frederick, and I'm very soon not going to live in Maryland. And I would be a fool if I could not recognize how in debt I am to this state and the people I've met and the things that have happened. It's people use the phrase a new lease on life all the time, but it's just the truth. I know no other phrase to state this. Living in Maryland for the better part of 15 years has given me a lease on life and allowed me to find purpose, a purpose that I never knew I could have. And and I owe that. I owe that, even the bad times, even the people I hate, and I would just give anything to see them in a Saw movie when they're cut up into 100 million pieces. Um I owe everything to them. So I'm very thankful for that when it comes to this Thanksgiving season. Now, Chris, what is your hot sauce?
So you did two, so I get two. Is this how this works?
Sure, yeah.
Is there one more layer above this? Because I have it
There will be one more. I got one
one
more
more.
layer
Okay.
above this.
So the um okay. Yeah. So going back to, I mean, like, we've talked about music, we've talked about all the things. People we're all here, we're listening. I am so grateful for people that still give a F in this city, whether it be people that want to try different things, want to try an old thing in a new place, want to, and it's all specifically music related, because I'm always wanting to create something that wasn't there for me when I was a kid. And most of that is all ages shows that are in places in Frederick, and that's always been huge for me. Because if you don't have those places, then like I couldn't meet friends or bands or some of my really good friends now if it wasn't for those types of spots. And so they always pop up and they're here for a little bit and then they're gone. And then those other people that are either old or um hungry for something else try to find the next thing and try to kind of keep on doing it. And so we thanked old mother before this, but it's like I'm so grateful for them, but then I'm also grateful for places like FAC that difficult and challenging and maybe a little bit of like reluctance aside, that they're working with us to do different things in all sorts of spaces. And it's just really cool to see people trying new things. It's really cool to see places like Sky Stage doing something that's like seasonal and kind of this like special thing, and they give us a night to do these could be better nights that are just a ton of fun and always packed out and always just really good bands where they can all hang out and having this experience together. And so I'm just so grateful that there is a select few of people that are really, and I'm sure I left out some, but it's like for the most part, you've all moved away. So it's like, I'm grateful to be here in this town. I'm grateful to be doing music and not just like doing music as like playing in a band, but being able to have places for bands to play and something that is safe, that is comfortable, that doesn't suck, and that you do get paid for some of your time. And just so grateful that that community and those spaces exist, because if it wasn't for spaces, I'm not sure where we would be. So very grateful for venues, for bars, for coffee shops. Shout out to Aaron at NOLA, doing the Lord's work over there. I think there's been many times Sky Stage shows got rained out and Aaron said, come have it at NOLA. And they just figured stuff out and they had a great time. And it's just so cool when we get to see a small town not be petty, not have egos, not say we're doing this better than everybody else, but they're working together to just build up this community well. And so very grateful for that.
You said you were going too.
Second one. And then we'll I guess I got my last one. So this one is also a oh boy. This one's also a sappy one, because I guess like we always talk about this and this is a thing that we often do, but it's like it's our friendship, man. I'm so thankful for you. And I had a friend die on Thursday, and it was really sudden and it was really tough, and you and I got lunch the next day and I got out of the car, and typically there's a reluctant hug. You always do a good goodbye hug, but the welcome hug is like, that's not, you're like, all right, let's go sit down. My leg hurts. And so you gave me the reluctant welcome hug, and instantly you knew, you're like, oh, you doing okay? And then like, I didn't let go. And we just kind of stood there for a minute crying in this parking lot. And it was, what I needed at that moment. And so like, for us doing this podcast and for all of the millions of dumb things that nobody knows that we talk about all the time, and just like trying things out or whatever, it's like we are both very different people that are complicated that somehow found this weird connection that is the most beautiful and confusing thing to a lot of people. And it is so important to me. And so like, if the podcast, when the podcast stops, right? Because this isn't going forever, when the podcast stops, like we'll still have probably a time where we're going to call each other and just talk about dumb stuff. And, and you alluded to like, hey, like leaving Frederick. And so it's like, yeah, sure. Of course. This town is just too small for you now. You have to spread your wings and fly. But the time that we've gotten to be able to do this in this city, the things that I've learned from you, the things that you've taught me, the things that we've gotten to do together, it's so much fun, and it's been so rewarding, and it's been so hard, and it's been so feeding my soul. So thank you for just like your friendship and putting up with all of my issues in a way that is just I don't know. I just know you love me, and I'm so grateful for that. So thanks. That you are my Christmas gift, babe.
No, I can't. It's very hard to follow that up. I don't think I'll be able to do that adequately. But of course, the thing, if you get it, the super hot, the jalapeno, the death sauce. The amount of things that I've learned from being a part of whatever this is, being a part of whatever could be better is, because this has taken a lot of different shapes from the first conversations we've had. What was that, 3-4 years ago now, right?
Shout out to the Eagles Club.
Yeah. The things that I've learned are things that I'm never going to forget, and the friendship that we forged is something I will never, like, this. It's so weird because this sounds like this is like the end of the podcast, the way we're talking. But
I was just about to say that. I'm like, guys, we're not breaking up. We're just being very reflective, very thankful, very, and that was the Colin.
And we still have another month of this, right? We still have
so
another
much.
month of season 3.
Yeah. It's like, hey, we're gonna be going. We're gonna be at college together. Don't worry. We'll see each other. Like, our classes are at the opposite ends of the campus, but we'll definitely be together. Everything will be fine. That's not what this is. And Colin, you were kind of like, you kind of rolled your eyes a little bit when we talked about this at lunch last week. You're like, gratitude. Oh, okay. I mean, like, not that you were knocking the idea, but just like, I mean, okay, I guess we can do that. So this isn't something where we're feeling away about things. We're just trying to look at the things that are kind of happening in our lives, and thought it would be interesting to kind of share on the podcast. So
Yeah, I
anyway,
mean,
continue.
the truth is that doing this podcast and doing the could be better stuff has absolutely changed my life. Like, it's changed my life in every way for the better. All of the credit for that should be given to Chris. That is without question. And when we do have our final ever podcast, I will cry then for that, and I will go on and on about that. But what people don't, well, maybe people understand, I don't know, but the amount of work that Chris puts into everything that involves the could be better thing, and especially the shows, especially the shows, I think it goes unnoticed, and I think it goes unappreciated by a lot of people. It is a hard thing to do. Look, to put together bill after bill, weekend after weekend, and we've been very grateful. Again, if the whole theme of the episode is gratefulness, we're very thankful and grateful for Old Mother, because Old Mother has become the place where could be better books shows, and all that credit goes to Chris. Like, all of that credit goes to Chris, for good and bad. All of it goes to Chris. Like,
Yes.
that's how that goes. And to understand and to know how hard that is such, like, that's, if you don't know, you don't know. Like, that's just how that is. I know that sounds obnoxious. I'm very sorry for that. But the amount of work that Chris puts in to keep Could Be Better going, and the amount of work that Chris puts into this music scene, is something I am so grateful for, which is my hot sauce final thing. It's a, I have no idea. I have no idea what people think of Could Be Better at this point. I have no idea what people think of me at this point. I have no idea what people think of Chris at this point. What I know is that Chris Berry does so much work that he's not paid for, that he's not celebrated for, that people don't really know, and they will never know. And that's part of how it goes. That's just life. That's just how that goes. But if there is a time to at least say to somebody, hey, somebody can see you, somebody can see the work, somebody can see everything that you do. And again, I don't want to go into the sappy place like you referenced earlier, and I'm not really getting there yet. The reality is that none of this works without Chris. And it, it's the hardest working person I've ever met in in any of this nonsense. It's the hardest working person. Not enough flowers. You can agree, you can disagree with booking decisions, with approaches to emails, to whatever you want to say, whatever gripes you have. There is a huge difference between having somebody who keeps the glue in place and having nobody who keeps the glue in place. And for what I know, or for what I've seen, Old Mother Brewing has a real life stage and a real life sound system and a real life system, not sound system, but system, to get music in there on a weekly basis. All of that credit does not go to Could Be Better. It goes to Chris Perry. So if there was ever a time to write a love letter, this was my love letter. And hopefully people will have a turkey leg in your honor this Thanksgiving.
Mm. Now, it would be totally, I love you, and it'll be totally in pure fashion to deflect certain things, like, the stage and the sound system being part of the grant money, and shout out to New Spire Stages for certain things. And, Nick and Keith and Kristen at Old Mother for being just awesome people to work with. And our three awesome sound folks that, Dylan, AB, and Spencer, that are all amazing people that help the lift of making shows possible. But I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to accept the compliments that you were saying on that, and move on to my final one, which um it's my family. Like,
It has to
Laura,
be. It
Laura and
has to
Wes
be.
are so freaking awesome. And doing all this could be better stuff.
It's a
when you have it.
beautiful family. Like let me just cut. I don't mean to cut you off, but let me just cut you off a
I'm
little
gonna
bit.
cut you off. I got one more thing. I got one more thing.
Like no, like I was over there the other week because we had to watch the movie for a podcast many months down the road, I guess now. But um, it's always a joy to be at your house. Beautiful wife, beautiful son. You guys have it figured out, and that's so messed up. Like, oh, I mean, messed up in the best ways, but for me, like, I'd it, just watching you and watching your family has been such an inspiration to me. So there, I'm done. Sorry.
No, it's thanks, man. It's like, still fight and things are hard and we still get short with each other and say mean things when we don't mean to because we're tired and all of the things. But man, like I am incredibly lucky um that I have such a solid partner and lover and friend that we get to do all this stuff together. And it's like the last 2 weeks we had shows. Laura brought Wes to Old Mother as we're like setting up and stuff, and it's like he's like running around like helping me, like he's taking cables and like doesn't know where to plug anything in, but he's holding things, and it's like he's just trying to be helpful and like as somebody that's 20 months old can. um but then it's like we're having dinner together at the show and we're doing all these things. It's like we know it's like there's a cap to how long I can do this, right? There's a cap to me how on how much like I want and like to do this, but like it is the coolest thing for your significant other and for me, for my wife to be like, hey, like yeah, I know this isn't about like fame for you. It's definitely not about money for us. But like this is something that's important to the Frederick community and something that's important to you, and like this brings hope and this brings life. And like you can look at like we're putting on a show in the back of a brewery and like how does that bring hope and life? But it's like, man, there's that band Sweat from Pittsburgh that played a couple at the beginning of October, and like I still think about that show and it makes me so incredibly happy. And it's like they were so freaking good. And those moments and those experiences that we all get to share together don't exist if I don't have that support from Laura to be able to do these things. And I'm just so thankful. Um, and man, has she taught me a lot about tolerance. My goodness, I'm a hard person to live with. My goodness. um but yeah, like Wes was really sick for his first like few months of his life. Like it wasn't um weeks in a hospital, but it was like, I mean, for folks that care or that remember, it's like he got really sick with uh just being a young kid and being a baby. Like I think he was under a year or right over a year, and he was just like just getting colds and then not being able to breathe super well, and we'd have to like go to the ER and we'd stay for a couple of nights. And it's like throughout this whole thing, as we do all this Could Be Better stuff, like the whole Could Be Better network of friends and family and podcast people all just bound, I felt so loved and felt so cared for. And like it was never a hey, I have to go do the show. Like everybody jumped in and did some stuff. And Laura's like so grateful and so thankful for the people that care for me. Because then when I feel cared for, I'm able to care for my family really well. And so I'm my ultimate hot is the love of my life, Laura, and my amazing son who's so freaking funny, Wes. But then also for the other people that like care for me, because that just makes a huge difference. And um when I'm gone, not dying, right? But when I'm no longer doing shows and the torch has been passed, please, 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 please care about the next person, even just a little bit of how you've cared for me, because that makes such a huge difference when you are appreciated and thanked for the stuff that you're doing for your community, because it is easy just to take. And Frederick's really good at taking, just to be honest. And so when you get people that want to link arms with you and try to do stuff, it's like everybody on our network, the podcast network, all of the people that help us with shows, like Christine and Troy from when we have random shows where we need to have door coverage or security, and Colin for doing bar whenever we need to do something with a bar, and like all these people that do things together. It's like this group of people I'm so grateful for. And if you would love, and I'll end it with this, if you would love to be a part of some of the things that we do, we always need help. And it's something where it's a really cool thing to do this all together. And maybe you could be one of the things we're grateful for next year when we do this podcast. But pulling it full circle, I love you so much. All the listeners, thank you for listening to this love fest of weird things.
Happy Thanksgiving. Eat a good dinner with your family. Invite people over. Look at somebody who you know might not have a good Thanksgiving and invite them into your house to eat some turkey and watch some football. Do whatever you do. This is about love, right, Chris?
Very much so. And so if you have extra bucks, there's food pantries, there's food kitchens, there's all sorts of things you can donate to this holiday season for folks that are less than. There's also for my friend that passed, love you, Patty. But a couple of friends found out and they said, well, hey, like, let us know if there's anything we can do for that person's community, like make them dinner or send them something. And so holidays are tough. Families are weird. People are weird. So when you see those things where you can lend a helping hand, don't hesitate, just do it. And always ask people how you can help, and then also be quick to act. So we're better for it when we do that together. So Could Be Better Nation, Could Be Better family. You are loved, and we are so grateful that you're here and listening and doing this with us. And we really do mean it. So Andrew Brommel, I know you're listening. Everybody else, I'm not sure. Maybe Alex, again, homeloanswithalex.com. I know some of these people are listening, and we're so grateful for that. But for everybody else, let us know that we missed you, and we will make sure we shout you out next year if this thing's still a thing. Colin, any final notes before we go?
Andrew's going to be mad that you said his songs weren't any good live. I'm just going to say that.
Okay. Well, Andrew, you can go back to the tape because I definitely said something like that, but it wasn't that bad.
Hey, though, but for real, everybody, if you're out there, we're putting this out, 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, 3 weeks before Thanksgiving. They come out on Thursdays. So when does this come out? 2 weeks before or 3 weeks before?
So today is the 6th and it comes out on the 9th. So it's 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. Correct.
So 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, please help people. That would be the only thing I have to add to this. Please help anybody you can, like it's one of those times where people feel a lot alone. Even if it's somebody you think you know well, just reach out, tell them you love them. That's all I got.
Perfect way to end. All right, everybody. Talk to you next week. The Could Be Better podcast was recorded at the Could Be Better Studios somewhere in the middle of Maryland.
This state-of-the-art facility has welcomed in everyone from Ringo Starr to 50 Cent, and it can accommodate all of your podcast needs.
What?
Never mind. If you like what you hear, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Threads, and Zanga. Do not forget to check out our website, www.couldbebettermeh.com.
Also, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Overcast, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts, if you want to make sure we come back for a 4th season, or don't, and maybe we'll listen to you.
Well, plus don't forget to check out all of our brother and sister podcasts exclusively within the Could Be Better network.
And if all else fails, hey, at least come out to a show every now and then.
Wait, we do shows?
This is so much fun. I'm Chris Perry.
And I'm Colin McGuire. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. And don't forget, this could always be better.
The Could Be Better podcast is proud to be a part of the Could Be Better podcast network. We're passionate about creating and using these platforms to dive into topics such as exploring lo-fi, impulsive, small, and otherwise overlooked artworks and creative practices, what happened in the world this week and how to laugh through or at it, and hearing stories from musicians of all walks of life. Check out these podcasts, Could Be Better podcast, This Is Not My Magnum Opus, The Weekly with Kiki, and a brand new show with Stitcherly called The Population, wherever you listen to podcasts. You can visit couldbebettermeh.com/podcasts in the show notes to see the current shows on the Could Be Better podcast network, Let's hang out as we figure out more about ourselves, the community around us, and why Ted Lasso is the greatest show of all time.